Hi, it's Carrie with Picasso Kat Treasures. I hope you're having a wonderful week. I haven't posted in a few days, and the reason is I've been going through inventory control. So I decided this was a good chance for me to do a really, hopefully quick video on the 5 best ways to control your inventory. Whether you're a big, huge seller or you're just selling a little bit, these things will save you a lot of headaches if you remember to do them in advance, which unfortunately, the last inventory that I did on my own products, I realized I had not kept on top of it. And believe me, if you do not keep on top of your inventory, it will end up on top of you. I'm not kidding. We can source, but unless we know how to inventory, we're going to be in trouble. So I want to first go over a broad concept about being a small business owner, somebody who sells online. Remember, I'm a sole proprietor. I don't have anybody helping me. I have people help me do videos sometimes, like appear in my videos. I don't have anybody who helps me do the editing on YouTube, obviously. I don't have anybody helping me choose my inventory, mail my inventory, nothing. I have no help. I'm the only one, so I have to keep on top of it. So remember, try to remember that when you're in a small business and you're alone, you're not just the operator of the business. You're not just the one going around doing the things. You are the manager as well. And a manager has to do an overlook. They have to overlook the whole process and make sure that things are running smoothly for their operator, which is you. Tip number 1. I say definitely designate a space right away for your inventory, wherever it is. I don't care if it's a shoebox. If you have a house full of people, also remember to put a note on them and let all of them know that is your business inventory and they cannot go into it for any reason. If by any chance anybody does, make them tell you immediately. Why is this so important? Well, if things are taken out of your inventory and you don't know it and they're still up for sale on eBay and somebody buys that product and you go to find it and it's gone and you have to cancel that order, that is a ding. You will eventually lose your top-rated seller status if you don't send everything out that people buy. It'll add up, just like any late shipping adds up on something like eBay. And I assume that's the same for Poshmark. So my whole idea is, even if you have 2 things listed, have them in one place or in a general place that you keep them and that everybody around you is notified that they are your inventory and they can't be touched. Tip 1A, okay. If by any chance you find yourself like I did, you start selling small and you have everything like in one closet and you know where it all is, and suddenly you start selling a lot more, it really picks up. Don't do what I did, which is I tried to go back and say, well, from here forward, I will keep my inventory a certain way. And I will just leave the inventory I had the old way, just leave it, and from here forward, I'll do. No. My father was the president of a large corporation in his last job with Chevron. And so one of the things he liked to talk about was when there were things going on. This involved, of course, refineries and gas stations, but he would talk about correct it, don't fix it. Okay, if you have a problem in your inventory system, don't go fix the problem like start from there forward and fix the problem. You've got to stop and correct the entire problem. So what I had to do this weekend was, and this is my advice to you, is I had to go and re-inventory every single thing I had and make sure it was there, it was what I said it was, there were as many as I said there would be, and that I put a new label on whatever box that I had it in, and we'll talk about that labeling in a minute. So don't just fix the problem going forward. Correct the problem at the base, and that may mean, like it did for me, taking my store offline for 2 or 3 days and basically pulling everything out one by one, making sure I had everything completely correct. Why did I have to do that? Well, I tried to fix the problem instead of correct it. Okay, so now that I've corrected it, I think I'm on a better basis. In the same couple of weeks, I had 2 items I couldn't find in my inventory that I was sure I knew where they were. Excuse me, rule number 1, have a place for your inventory all the time, and rule number and a way to inventory. And rule 1A is if you've gotten far into it and you don't have your inventory done right yet, you've got to go back and you've got to redo and correct all of your inventory going forward. And hopefully that won't be too much of a deal. I kind of liked it. I have a ton of stuff now I've got to relist because I forgot that I had them. They fell off my eBay listings and now I need to rephotograph them. So this is important. Okay, tip number 2 is, of course, always have your inventory labeled on both the inventory piece itself, the actual piece of stock itself, and in your listing. And I'll show you how to do that. Many people have inventory stored all over their house in different boxes with labels, you know, big containers, and the box will say A, right? And inside box A will be 15 items. So do yourself a favor. If you got as far as having box A written on something, go back into the listing or start the listing out by always adding in the listing where that item is stored. On eBay, on my listings, I always put that under the custom label. So there's a section, if you open a listing, the top will be the title, and then I think it's a secondary title. I never use it, but the third one is custom label, and that's where I put my actual note to myself. And this works really well because when you pull anything like that up on the mobile app, that will show on the first page you open. Okay, so if you say you took a shirt and you put it in a poly bag and you labeled it 15 and you put it in B, okay, box B. So of course, in your custom label, you'd put B15, okay? So remember to do that for yourself. If anybody, they won't ask you what that's for. Most people know that's inventory. But remember, if you put it in the custom label section, it will come up automatically on almost any mobile app. You'll see it right away. So if you're pulling inventory, you can just have your phone and go, okay, that's here, here. So always mark it on the inventory item itself and mark it in the listing itself. It will make life much easier. Another part to section 2, which is labeling both the item and in the listing, is I like to put things in those plastic, the poly bags, and the clear poly bags. And the reason I do that is not necessarily because they all need to be bagged to stay nice. It's just that I find myself having a much easier time shipping them out and mailing them, and that's what I'm looking for. So if you go ahead and label a plastic bag that has, you know, those ones you buy that have the suffocation warning, always buy those. You put a shirt in there and it's 15, right? Put 15 on a little tab in a small, you know, area of the package. That way you can see it, and then if you don't want to send it to them like that, you can put a really nice little thank you for your purchase sticker on top of that. And everybody likes that. It's all in presentation. Okay, tip number 3. Never, ever, ever remove an item from your inventory without immediately removing it from your eBay or Poshmark or wherever you have it listed inventory. This has happened to me. I'm sorry to say this, but sometimes I'm going through my inventory and I see something and I think, well, that hasn't sold for a while. I'm just going to donate it. And I've done that a few times thinking, well, I'll just remember to go back and, you know, take it down later. Trust me, that will be the day that something you've had listed for, you know, 5 months finally sells and you've just dropped it off at Goodwill. Okay? And so there you are again with another incidence where you don't have your product to fill. So never, ever take anything out of your inventory or move anything around in your inventory unless you are literally online ending that listing or changing where it is stored in the subcategory. So you tell yourself, I moved this. My 4th piece of advice is kind of another one of those overall management things, and it's called de-bottlenecking. So when you're in a large corporation, they often talk about upstream and downstream, and, you know, the upstream marketing people are doing this. But when you're working for yourself, you are the stream. You're the whole thing, okay? So you have to manage everything from basically the beginning to the very end of the product, including sourcing it all the way to putting it in the mailbox. So remember, if you have a bottleneck in your inventory system, You've got to de-bottleneck it. So let's go over what would that mean. Okay, for me, if you have an inventory system that every time you go to get something out, you have to move stuff around, you have to move one box off another, you have to get a step stool, and you have to climb up and, you know, find it, and you're wobbling. Okay, it's taking more time maybe than it should to get the item out of inventory, because inventory control is not just about where you put it and where you store it. It's about how you retrieve it when you need it. If you were a manager and had an employee, would you want them to have to literally walk around other stuff and shove things aside to get at something that the employee needs to have access to? Or would you want them to have a very, very simple, open path to retrieve items in a very literal form? In other words, do I need a step stool? Okay, yes, is the step stool always available? Is it always uncovered? Or is there stuff always on top of it? Remember, you owe it to yourself as well to make this job as easy as you can. So remember, you want to find the bottleneck where it's happening. Now, here's where I'm going to talk about being upstream conscious and downstream conscious. Sometimes the bottleneck has nothing to do with where the actual problem is occurring. Like, say, for instance, you have a bottleneck in the source of, getting the stuff off the shelves and putting it where it needs to be. Okay, so let's think about that. Perhaps in the upstream part of your business, you're sourcing, you're bringing it into the house, perhaps you need to stop for a while, hard to do, and say, I'm bottlenecking because I have too many things in my to-do list and to list, and I simply cannot, get to them fast enough, and so I'm doing a sloppy job when it comes to inventory, which makes my job when I go to mail it way harder. Okay, so remember, maybe you need to slow down for just a little bit till you get everything under control, and then the bottleneck won't be there anymore. You have fixed whatever it was that was causing that to happen. And then downstream, here's another thought I want you to have is, downstream I think of as when we sell something, we go to get it out of storage and we're going to mail it out. Okay, so here's something you need to do. If that is a constant struggle, if you find yourself selling things and going, oh, now I have to get them out and put them in the mail, and if you're going through those feelings, then something's going wrong. It can be done better. So here's another trick my dad used to say, and he used to say, because he ran these literally big, company, he would say, okay, why don't you float downstream for a while? Which was like, because we're in this day and age, we're like, oh no, you have to you have to get in there. And his thought process, he's passed away many years ago, but he used to give speeches all over the place. And everybody loved his speeches. And one of the things they liked was he would talk about pulling your oars out of the water for a minute. Okay, so if your eBay business or your Poshmark business is starting to crash over your head because your inventory is a bit out of control, pull your oars out of the water. Okay, stop. Just let yourself float downstream. Okay, A, you're going to give yourself a bit of a rest, and B, you can start to see where you're off to the side a little bit, and you're looking where the real problems are. So this is what I did for myself, and it has made my life a lot easier. Okay, so I stopped what I was doing, and I pictured, whether you want to with your eyes closed or open, it doesn't matter. I pictured every step of listing, inventorying, putting something into stock, and then getting it back out once it's sold. So basically, not the going and getting the items, but what happens when I get them. I went through every single step in my mind in my house, which is where I do my business. And immediately I could see a couple of problems. Immediately I remembered, oh, every time I wanted to go into that cabinet to get that box, I had to move 3 things, open the cabinet, pull out this box, 2 huge boxes, way too huge, falling. Okay, or I get all these things together and I have no place that is a nice wide open place to put them down so that I can get them ready to send out. So another thing you might want to think about is pulling your oars out of the water, stopping for a minute, floating downstream on your own work. This is you. This is what you do. And going, okay, this is not the ballerina dance I hoped it would be. I am literally tripping over myself. I am stumbling on actual things on the floor. I have to get ladders out to get my stock, and the ladders are always covered with more stuff. stop for a minute and say, exactly what would the perfect system for me be? It would be this, this, and this. So remember, you're the manager, and the person that you're making it smooth for is the operator, which is you. So do yourself a favor. So part of doing that is making sure that you don't have things too high on shelves without literally a designated footstool that is never used for anything else ever, you know, that kind of thing. Or keeping your mailing supplies really close to where you have your stock so that you don't have to move it far. You just put it over here. These things will make your life go smoother. And sometimes you do have to stop and think about it, but trust me, it's worth it to do that. My fifth and probably the most obvious tip of all is to make sure that you have nice, sturdy, clean boxes and that are easily labeled, and you have actual places, preferably racks, where you can put the boxes that you can see and retrieve them. And by good boxes, remember, they can't be so big that you can't get them down without dropping them. So try to make sure you have good usable boxes that are the appropriate size for you. So those are my 5 probably really obvious tips, but I think the overall thing is remember who you're working for and remember who's working for you. Okay? So make it work for you. So my best advice to you is to stop and think about yourself as both the manager and the employee is doing the actual work. And your inventory system then will not be this big, you know, scary thing that might come out of the closet and fall on you and you're buried. They find you under, you know, the boxes of your inventory. Instead, it'll be something you have control over, and you'll be much more willing to get more inventory because it won't seem overwhelming to you. So anyway, thank you for watching. Keep your eyes open for treasure and have a great week. Bye.